Good afternoon. It's May 5th. Nope, May 10th, Wednesday. The time is 3:40. I hereby call to order the Budget Committee of the Memphis City Council. Jones, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Morgan. Here. Councilman Ford. Here. Councilman Warren. Present. Chair Carlisle.
President, Chair observes a quorum. Colleagues, we have three, I think, right? We got General Services, HCD, and MATA on today's agenda. Up first is General Services. Deputy Director, liaison to, Deputy Director Adams, floor is yours, sir. Whenever you're ready. I'm never getting fired up here. If you want to give us a little precursor as this computer's coming along, a little sauce about what we're looking forward to, that'd be great.
Yes, sir. I am Deputy Chief Operating Officer, Director Antonio Adams of General Services. I represent and lead the best division in the city of Memphis. Not biased at all. What I like to say is these men and women do everything but put bullets in a gun and water in hoses. We work 365. We have three budgets we'll be presenting: operating, fleet, which is an internal service fund, and then, of course, CIP. We are waiting to get our...
Let's just talk a little bit about your organizational chart. Just
all right, there we go. We'll start with the organizational chart. So within general services, you got 4 legal levels. You got the administration. Within the administration, you have, of course, our administrative offices that houses the director, deputy director, and then, of course, our administrative suite, which has our HR, BP area, and then you have general services support services. That's our operations area that they manage our business. So what we've decided to do is consolidate our business services extension in general services administration. We did that over the course of the last 2 fiscal years. Then you have property and building maintenance. What we decided to do there was we had 2 different departments or 2 different legal levels where we had OCH in the past. OCH was City Hall and the public safety buildings that operated as its own separate legal level. We combined those with the other property maintenance service center areas, and we made one service center area. You'll see property maintenance, Bass Pro, grounds, and then you have building maintenance, which includes City Hall, public safety, mail, Coke, which is going to be brought online beginning in June. In Coke, we will house the former occupants of 281 North Parkway. You got real estate, and then, of course...
Can I ask you a real quick question on
yes, sir.
Property? Where do you classify the zoo?
So, the zoo is a part of one of the park properties.
Okay, so they're a park property, and then but your division will...
We help maintain the zoo, yes, sir.
But so do you get a recovery from them?
No, sir. So there is a subsidy that the city pays through the zoo of $250,000, but upon request, we maintain the zoo building systems.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's why it's not in your org chart.
Yes, sir.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes, sir. But we'll talk about that when we start talking about CIP, and I have definitive opinions about that.
I know you do.
Sir. Mail. So we distribute the mail to all city extensions. So we receive the U.S. mail on behalf of the city. And then, of course, we redistribute to all the extensions throughout the city. So you have, 4 or 5 employees that distribute to all the different extensions throughout the city. And then, of course, we have the fleet personnel that's housed within our general fund budget. Our operating priorities kind of remain the same. Within building maintenance, we want to address all of our target maintenance. That's important as we have made major investments over the last 4 to 5 years to build new fire stations, which was one of the major priorities of Chief Sweat as she became fire director, fire chief, and she's done an excellent job at achieving some new fire stations, renovating some new fire stations, but we got a long way to go. But we want to make sure that we hit target maintenance, but then, of course, address all necessary repairs so we are not interrupted in any program or service no more than 1 hour. Fleet maintenance, we want to assist all our divisions that we maintain their fleet, keep at least 90% of their fleet mission ready, and we deliver fuel in a clean and efficient, cost-effective manner. We effectively maintain the city's property portfolio. And then, of course, the one thing that I am a stickler in and I promote within the division, and that is continued improvement. So we go through quarterly, if not monthly, staff development, process improvement. I'm a big believer in Lean, Six Sigma, Agile, with respect to, and that's process improvement within our division. We have to learn how to chew gum and walk at the same time. We only have roughly around 300 employees. You'll see in my compliment, we've had a difficult time in filling some of our vacancies. So we've had to learn how to do a lot more with less. And so we have to do that through process improvement. Let's go to page 5. You'll see our FY24 request. While it appears that there is an adopted request decrease of $731,366 decrease, well, there is a decrease in that request. We are accommodating a lot of our hard to fill positions within that. So we acknowledge that there are some hard to fill positions baked in that request. Those are in our fleet services and in our property maintenance services. And I'll talk a little bit more when we start talking about our authorized complement. You'll see in our personnel expenses, that's $23,778,751. And then of that, $9,123,000, that represents our fleet maintenance personnel line. So those are the personnel dollars in our fleet maintenance budget. One of the things I want to make sure that we all understand, the money that is allocated to general services, that goes to support every city division. So every city division is supported by general services. There's nothing that is that is kept selfishly for general services. We are maintaining the equipment for every city division, every building, every piece of fleet. If there's property, it's done for the citizens. There's nothing that's done for general services. Our material and supplies. we have a net increase of $1,200,000 and roughly $40,000. That gives us a net increase of our from adopted FY23 to 24 of $508,000 from FY23 to 24. Our FY24 request is $25,706,316. Let's talk about page 7, and this kind of provides a comparative spend across our legal levels. This kind of breaks down, and I'll kind of take you to the next to last column, which kind of breaks down where that spend is spread out. We'll work with our Department of Finance or Division of Finance to kind of break these out, as we will need to break out that negative $339,000 decrease and spread that out amongst the other areas, because we don't want that to hit the fleet services line, especially when there is an increase. And we'll talk about that in our net fleet gain, because we are increasing our fleet. We have increased our fleet. You all have increased. You all have approved that we acquire more fleet, so we'll talk and we'll work through with our finance division. Page 8 provides a more detailed glimpse into our breakdown of our $508,000 expenditure increase. Top line, the full-time salaries. And this comes from specifically what was negotiated over time from our labor negotiations. So we have labor unions ASME, IUOE, the craft, we have the 7 crafts in our complement as well. And then, of course, the machinists. So this will be the last year of their labor, the term of their negotiated agreements. And so all of their agreement, the terms of their agreed upon terms will end this year, and this will be the amount baked in to that full-time line. And then, of course, you see the insurance. We have part-time salaries. I've had to ask for an increase for part-time salaries because we use those to augment where we can't fill in our full-time salary line. The reality is we have had to bring on part-time employees to fill in where we don't have full-time employees. We have a 2% increase. That 2% increase division-wide amounts to $553,729. And then, of course, we had an ISL request. That ISL request is for the positions that will be going online when Coke comes online. So you have 3 phases of Coke. There is the fueling station, that's the administration building, and then, of course, that is the fleet maintenance shop. The fleet maintenance shop is the last to come online that is actually under agreement, construction agreement, and that has a 12 to 16-month window now. That is a renovation of the current steel or fabricated steel building that's out there now. That would house the existing fire shop, the turf and agriculture shop, and the body shop. Up until this year, we did not outsource any body work. This year, we've lost 2 body mechanics. We are outsourcing body work. So we're doing and we're working with HR to try to attract body shop mechanics, and hopefully a new body shop will help us do so. We will turn that property over because we did sell that property to St. Jude Hospital, and then that will be a part of their expansion. The line below represents the utilities. Most of that will actually be absorbed at Coke. Our shop charges, shop fuel, our computer line, and then various accounts.
Okay, before we
Yes,
move
sir.
on, I typically wouldn't do this, but I don't. And I looked at your compliment. So what I don't understand is you're moving. Are you when you on the line? Your in service level, your increased service level.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying that is being moved and blended out over next fiscal year, and that's why it's coming out of this budget? So what I don't understand is you've got a reduction in full-time salaries by $500,000, but you've moved $1,225,000 to full-time salaries. So I don't understand I'm just not following. I mean, I'm not following the math. I just see provided by administration. So maybe I'm missing a formula.
Walter Person, Deputy CFO, 125 North Main. Well, Budget Chairman, I think we will probably need to kind of revisit this slide. There are some things in the slide that I wanted to confirm, and I don't have that data right here in front of me, but I think we want to kind of revisit it. The concepts that the Deputy Chief has shared, I think are generally valid, but
Yeah,
there
I
are some
follow
questions.
what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that we'll have to revisit
Okay.
the numbers here.
Yeah, that's
If that's okay.
yeah, that's fine with me. I mean, like, look, I get it. You're getting your pro rata share of the 2% increase, and then some. Did you say you've got represented employees? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you've got some representative,
Yeah.
and then you've got some general.
So
I get that. So I follow all that. Like I said, the thing that I don't follow is the difference is roughly $650,000 in
Correct.
offset between the two. But you go back to the other large. Yeah. Anyway, let's vet that out.
yeah.
All right. And here's the thing: in the grand scheme of things, and I'm not saying, I mean, every dollar counts, but in the grand scheme of $1.3 billion, it ain't the biggest thing. But it may come down to a project here or there.
Exactly.
So,
I understand.
all right, let's keep going.
All right. So we'll move to revenues, and our revenues are primarily generated or solely generated through our real estate department. And so under local taxes, which is our fiber optic fees, and you'll see that they performed extremely well, and based on performance, we've increased our requested budget to go up to $706,000 this year, which is an increase of $356,000. And then, of course, our charge for services, rental fees, they're going up. Well, excuse me, they're going down, which is Bass Pro. That's going to be a decrease, and that's going to be a decrease downward of $172,000. And then, of course, rental lands, there's going to be a slight increase. That rent of land, and then, of course, easement and encroachments, that's going to be slight increase of $100,000. So I will correct myself. The rental fees, that's not of the control of our real estate department. Now, the net increase is $242,576,000. And then, of course, our overall net revenue request this year will be $1,250,607.
Bass Pro, it's been a long time since I've read that bond issuance and that lease. Are they percentage rent based off of revenues, or are they fixed coming down after a period of time.
So
step down.
So the rent is a fixed rent, but the percentage allocated there's a percent allocated towards payback of the bond, and then there's a percent allocated towards other items. The residual goes back towards the maintenance.
Need some bowlers over there, people. Need to get some bowlers.
There you go.
Right.
All right. So let's go to, if we can, page 14. And so we'll kind of let's talk about our authorized complement. As you know, hiring is fluid. We've talked to you all individually, and so let's have a collective conversation. What we've done working with HR, one, from a division-wide, we've created a certification program on both sides. It's not negotiated. And the certification program is working with Shelby County Code. Those who, on the building maintenance side, who are required to have licenses, I pay for the licenses. If you are not required to have a license and you are in an entry-level position, I pay for you to be educated. If you want to go to school, trade school, you can obtain education. I'll pay for the test. And we continue. Then, upon certification or license, we'll pay you for the license. Because right now, our state of deferred maintenance, based on our facility conditions assessment, is in dire straits. So we do a lot of repair work, so we utilize the licenses. On the auto mechanic side, we use ASE as the standard, ASE, and we pay for those licenses, no different than the private sector. We pay for the testing, we pay for each certification, and we incentivize the auto mechanic to do so. Doesn't mean that you're any better of a mechanic because you do or you don't, but we do so just as an opportunity to gain additional money on your paycheck.
Yeah.
And this is industry standard.
I think that's great. I guess my question for you would be, you're using the term auto mechanic. I'm sure we've got diesel mechanic.
Yes, sir.
Right. So my question really is, and the issue that Matt runs into, and any large trucking company like Peterbilt and all these guys run into is it's not necessarily, especially in Memphis, where again I'll go back and say the state doesn't give us our fair share when it comes to TCAT, more tech. So we often say it's a job issue. It's really a pipeline issue, right? So my question is for the city. Does it make sense, and perhaps in partnership with the chamber, to study bringing these things in-house versus paying for someone to go outside to a school that doesn't have a spot for them? So, again, if we know that we've got a pipeline of 20, and I don't know what our attrition rate and retirement rate and all that is, you do, but at long and short is we have so many positions across so many divisions that require specific certifications with no or to little support to stop the bottleneck at certain trade schools, TCAT, and places like that.
Right.
It almost makes sense in the big economic picture to look at bringing those schools in-house. Something to think about. We could spend all day just shooting the breeze over that.
Yeah.
But truly, we're talking about hundreds of positions across divisions, and especially when you're talking things like diesel mechanics. It's why every major private player in that space runs 24/7, 365. They will train diesel mechanics. They will keep them there. So I feel like there's a larger discussion that has to look at the bigger picture as a city entity when you're talking, and not to mention that all these jobs and these certifications have very good, or should at least, I'm sure there are probably gonna be some yeses and some nos, but should have really nice compensation packages with them because there's such high demand across the private and public sectors throughout the nation. It's how fast can I get certified and where am I going to go do that? And
yes, sir.
It seems to be a pipeline issue versus a desire issue. And so that just seems something that we should look at holistically.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll continue to explore that. Right now, we are having those discussions with TCAT. We've had those discussions with More Tech. We were just a little bit too late. Our private industry partners beat us to it. They actually built out a program, and of course, they built that program. They're paying those and paying them, and then we're kind of locked out. So they developed that program. And then, of course, we're talking to MSCS to develop that so that we can bring those kids in earlier so that they have a core level of skill set that we can bring them in and then develop them up as well. One of the issues that we have is the level of public safety vehicle that we have and the level of repair that we need, quite honestly. The level of repair that we need. We don't, I'll say this, Chairman Jones always asks, what do I need? What do we need? This is what I need. Ask those who use and ask those that are on the road to take care of the vehicles and take care of the asset better. Chief Sweat doesn't lie when she says that we have people that literally run into our vehicles. But we have, I don't know if it's intentional or they're colorblind, but these are big vehicles, and I don't know how they miss them.
3 trucks this year, 4 trucks this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll say this too. You all have paid for take-home vehicles. We got to take care of those vehicles because I don't need to see a vehicle when the engine's falling out.
That's fair, but you don't want us to get involved in
I don't need
policy.
you to get no. I mean, I don't want you to get involved. But what I'm saying is, we need, and then also even in the building. I don't want you to get involved. But what I'm saying is, my guys, when you have your town hall meetings or when you go out and you talk to the rank and file, talk to them too, because they see you. They need to hear from you too, because they see and they feel slighted because I ride hard on them to turn it around to make sure, because you hear, I would have done if General Services had done theirs, but the reality is they're trying.
I hear you. I'll tell you I know we need to keep going. From what I hear from most of the people that I talk to that are either first responders or in solid waste have nothing but, for the most part, have nothing but praise for General Services. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I mean, a Datsun can only run so far.
That's
and
true.
we can only make parts so long.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think that there's a group out there that doesn't believe that. I mean, we got cruisers out there running 300,000 miles or more. I mean, it's.
But we can extend the life on some of our vehicles, and we can extend the life on some of our assets if we take care of them.
Man, y'all need to come work for me. I got managers turning cars in at 80,000 miles an hour telling me the thing's old.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll say this. We do a good job. We should have a better replacement policy and life cycle. And General Services could do a better job, and we will. But I will say we all have to do a better job, because I'll dare say, there's some things that you all extend the life on and you push the envelope on as well. So that's all I'm saying.
Can we skip to 19?
Let's do it.
The other two are pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah. Let's go to 19. And it's probably my proudest. When we started.
I have a different 19. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Maybe 20.
Nope. Yeah, it's good. It's perfect.
Okay.
That's where I wanted to go.
All right. So, we're proud. Our first year, we were at 15, maybe 13, and now we're at total non-certified and certified 38%. And so it's because we have been intentional. No artificial goals, no make-believe. We are spending. We've been fortunate enough to get the projects, and we've been able to spend where we could, and we're holding because we believe in excellence. So I appreciate your collaboration and your support.
Thank you.
So
Deputy
that
CEO
wraps
Adams.
up the general fund.
Let the record show we've got council members Canale and Robinson here, and I've got council members Warren and Canale in the queue. Dr. Warren?
I just wanted to make sure I understood how you did your personnel expenses on
Yes, sir.
page 5.
Yes, sir.
Where there's that negative $9 million. Is that where it's your services are charged back out to the different departments
So
that need the service, and so they pay you
yes, sir.
from their department, and so it's a negative number here?
So yes, sir. That's paid back. So that expense recovery is expense back in from the fleet fund into the miscellaneous professional services, then back out to the shop charges. So you're correct. Correct. You're correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Council member J. Ford Canale.
Thank you, Chairman. Colleagues, we saw we see a lot of these same issues with personnel throughout the different divisions. We certainly saw the problem yesterday with Director Connect. And Director Adams, you've got 58 vacancies, 29 in fleet and 23 in property building maintenance. And how long have you had those vacancies?
So those are fluid. I'd say we're running at least 4 to 6 months in most of those vacancies.
But you're budgeting for 135 and 139 respectively in those two.
Yes, sir.
So what we're seeing, what you see in Public Works, and I think that Councilman Morgan has requested the numbers on how long some of these positions have been vacant. And what we're seeing, and I've had offline discussion with you, that we're getting outdone in pay by the private sector, especially you mentioned HVAC.
Yes, sir.
And, you know, for the men and women, some of them are here today, that stuck with us and haven't bounced for another position for a few more dollars down the street, I think that they need to be rewarded. And I think that we need to look at, and I don't even know if we have the authority to do this, but reducing the complement. I'm not saying reduce it all the way down for your vacancies, but at least reduce it down by a percentage and redistribute that amongst the men and women that stuck with us. Because, and I know that you could say that, well, you know, how can you ever bring those positions back if you eliminate them? And that's a discussion that we could have in the future. But in the meantime, they're getting the job done. They're showing up every day. They're doing the work, and they're staying with us when they could bounce for the private industry, private sector, and make more money. And they're getting the job done. They're having to get the job done. Now, it may not be getting done as fast as possible, but in several of these different divisions across the city, I think that, and I talked to Chief Ford about this as well, that it's worth looking at reducing some of these and giving these men and women a raise for the job that they're doing, for sticking with us and becoming more competitive. We know that in this market, it's all about the dollar. I mean, you see it all across America and the staffing issues that America has. So I don't know what that would take to look at that, or even if the council has the authority to do that.
I mean, I don't know that we have the authority necessarily to reduce the complement, but you cut one piece. I mean, that's a good, interesting question. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think let's do this. I think let's let Chief Ford and Chief Adams chat and then come back, and maybe you could sit down and meet with them.
And that's not to say that I'm not in hopes for more for Memphis and Shelby County schools and other people increasing the pipeline, like Chairman Carlisle said. I'm all for. I think you need to do that across America, right? Because the trades are taking a beating. But for the here and now, the people that are with us and sticking with us, we need to true up their pay so that we can keep some of these divisions going.
So I hear your charge. If you allow me to return to you all with the conversation with Chief Ford and Chief Smith, with an opportunity, if I can get with my staff as well, because the one thing I am concerned about is we have to have a minimum staffing level. We can't outsource everything, because the reality is you outsource, you're going to pay more. So we don't want to outsource everything, but at the same time, I get your point, because we do need to reward. One of the things that we had 4 people to leave just recently, and the 4 people that left were all managers. The reason they left is because they wanted to turn this back, because they never had a break. They were burned out. So before we lose any more, we do have to come up with something creative. So allow me the opportunity to come back with a different solution to you. So I appreciate that.
And it may be a spot bonus, and I don't know what the public sector version of that is, but I mean, ultimately I hear your point's taken. I think everybody gets it. I think it's a fair point.
I understand, but I'll come back with a definite creative solution, one in which we can live with. It's something we can live with in the budget as well.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Councilman Morgan, that's a good point. Councilman Morgan.
No, I was just kind of signaling to you on the discussion about being able to amend the complement up or down. And I never remember a vote where we specifically moved the complement. It's always we can amend the personnel line, and in a spirit of mutual cooperation, the mayor adjusts the complement befitting the will of the council. But push comes to shove, that's more of an administrative than a legislative. That was it. I've got my questions for General Service and Antonio. We've had so many discussions over the years, and they're the same things. We're working through them, not specifically to the budget, but appreciate the work you're doing and trying to figure out how we can accomplish the same goals a little quicker. But really no motions to make other than just, I think you have our support. Thank you for helping us understand the nature of the problem. And again, if there are ideas out there to improve it beyond just budget, we're all in, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. All right, that ends the general services operating budget for the general fund. Do you want to move on to CIP, or you want to do fleet fund?
Let's move to fleet fund if we can. I think fleet fund will be relatively.
Oh, don't jinx it. Don't say it. Don't say that.
Relative. All things are relative. All right. So yeah. So let's okay. All the way through it. Okay. That's all right. All right. There we go. Let's yeah. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So in the fleet fund here's our org chart. We have, of course, I explained where the personnel costs are parked, but legal levels, you have your administration, you have your fuel, parts, you have light shops. All of your light shops are primarily located at police precincts. So when you go to the police precincts and you see your vehicle maintenance shops, those are your light shops. And then, of course, you have a preventive maintenance shop. And then, of course, you used to see like one huge shop that's over at St. Jude. That's what we call our truck shop or our central shop. New central shop will open up at Knight Arnold. So we'll have that open in the month of June. So I'm excited that the men and women will have a new central location to call home, new technology, new shop. So we're excited about that. So you have parts, and of course, then you have a heavy shop. Our heavy shops are located out primarily at our solid waste installations. So you have you have truck shops across the street from Bellevue installation, and then one at Ferrisview. So if you're out at the solid waste installation, you'll see a fleet maintenance or a truck maintenance installation. It's like a 2 or 3 bay at Bellevue, and then you have a larger at Ferrisview. And then, of course, you have a fire maintenance shop, and it's right down here on Adams, right at the corner of Adams and Danny Thomas. That's the location that we propose, that we are planning to build out and move over to Coke. And then fire will move its logistics center there. That's what Chief Sweat was mentioning during her presentation. This is our bridge analysis. In that bridge analysis, you'll see that the true increases to the fleet or fleet expenses, and that's what we were kind of talking about there. The expenses will be $16 million to the fleet. This includes and again, remember your miscellaneous, your material and supplies includes your expense recovery. So miscellaneous professional services include your $9 million of labor, and also includes your parts and inventory as well. So that's included in that $16 million. So that's a $2 million increase. Then, of course, you have capital outlay. That's the equipment that we will buy. So instead of buying equipment as CIP, we're buying equipment. That's our lawnmowers, weed eaters, blowers, etc. We're buying it as capital outlay, and we buy it through fleet. That will be $700,000, which is a $343,000 increase. You have inventory. The inventory, those are our parts and fuel, $2 million there. And then, of course, we have depreciation expenses with a net $4.6 million increase over FY23. Those are our legal level expenses. So you'll see our shop charges, we have very minimal that we expense out in administration. Our administration cost, which that's our, all our foremen, supervisors, raise your hand. No, in fleet. Very few are billed out. Most of those. So that's in our administration. Fuel, there's our fuel supplies. Let's go down to parts. Parts, that's what then of course, light shops, heavy shops, and mechanics. Most of those are our parts and our labor and our mechanics in those particular areas. Yes, sir.
So rolling from 22 to 23, just so I'm reading this the right way.
Yeah.
were we at a fuel deficit? We had a balance that we owed. So we adopted a budget and we rolled through a negative basically 1.4 mil. What was yeah?
So that year, the fleet fund has a fund balance, and so what we did was we pulled from that fund balance to cover that.
Because it was,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I remember we were talking about how we bought our futures and our contracts versus spot.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. And so we were able to deal with that. Yes, sir.
So here's what's crazy is that fuel has gone up so extraordinary that we're rolling really $2.5-3 million over 3 fiscal years, right? Am I saying that the right way? Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. All right. Thank you. That's helpful. All right, let's keep going.
All right. Yeah. So go back. So again, this is by category. This is a breakdown of our spend, which this is what makes up that $4.6 million. Okay. Now, again, with the internal service fund, your expenditures, your revenues have to match your expenditures. So this is what our charge for services. We're going to have a slight increase, a slight tick for our charge for services. So our charge for services net, our FY24 request will be $33,913,000, which is a request of $4.8 million, and that's a $4.8 million request from 23 to 24. So that represents on page 10 that change from 23 to 24. We sell inside fuel. We do have inventory sales. So we have storage. So we sell various items inside our shop, lube, hand sanitizer, gloves, different store shop items, and then of course we do have shop charges, which is our labor.
How do you fix that labor? Is it based on market? Obviously it's an agreed upon rate. It's intercompany, but
So we actually use the same thing that we use a time labor guide, and that's the same that the industry uses.
Perfect.
Yeah. More of a breakdown. You can continue. Yeah. All right. All right. And we talked about our complement because if you recall, the complement for the fleet is actually in our operating budget. And then of course our expenses are in the operating budget as well. You can continue on. Here are our major M&S expenditures for fleet. Our biggest account. Yeah. There you go. All right. Yeah. That would be our labor charges. Continue. Then, of course, our MWB spend, which is division-wide, not necessarily specific to fleet. All right, that's it. Any questions with regard to our fleet budget? Yes, sir.
Number of police cars, new ones.
let's see. Got
South precincts kind of don't have no cars. They got staff, but no cars.
Yes, sir. I will get you the number of cars that we purchased. And as far as the allocation, we'll work with police to tell you where they were allocated. So I can tell you this. We can tell you the number of cars that were on order. We can tell you the number of cars that were received by police. What I cannot tell you is how police allocates and where police allocates.
Yeah.
Well, we can get that answer.
Well, I may can answer some of it,
Yes, sir.
but it needs to be corrected.
Yes, sir.
Okay, cars were at South Precinct. Okay?
Yes, sir.
But you got some of these lieutenants, and that need to get back with the police department to send those cars to some other place. I got an issue with that one,
Yes, sir.
okay? They need to keep theirs and leave ours alone, okay? Yeah. So you help us with it, and y'all remind me too, so when Chief is here, about those cars down there. Plenty of staff. That's how we've had problems in Whitehaven and all the rest. You get a call, you can't make the call because you don't have a cop.
Yes, sir.
And that's been a bad issue, okay?
Yes, sir.
It happened to me the whole weekend, no vehicles, everything else. You had enough employees, but no cars.
So,
Yeah.
yes, sir. And please let the record show that Chairman Jones was here. He's here. We're going to call him here. And Councilwoman Logan. So we've talked about this before, and I don't know that we've thought up on it, but I'll be more specific. So I'd like to see the number of police cruisers ordered over the last 2 fiscal years and how many we've taken delivery of.
Yes, sir.
And then the number of police cars in our fleet that are over 108, let's call it over 175,000 miles. That's the question, because what's happening is, and you guys know this, is even if we wanted to replace every single police cruiser or every single general service or even code enforcement, by the time we get to the appropriations, send out the contract or send out the for bid, get it signed, and then actually take delivery, it could be 2.5, 3 years based on what's going on. And that's assuming that the Charleston, New York, and some of the East Coast ports don't shut down.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's the big thing. I mean, I'm so happy, and it's not lost on me and many council members, and I hope the public appreciates this. Everything that the administration did in the last fiscal year and the one before that to go ahead and order this stuff when a lot of municipalities kind of were sitting and waiting to see where their financials were going to be has been a huge benefit to us. I mean, if we had made those orders when we did, we'd be in a lot more trouble, especially in parts too, right? I mean, we keep talking about parts. Thought I was going to get a giggle out of the Datsun joke. I didn't, but I'd like to see that information because again, we'll see where everybody lands at, but it's a kind of a good indicator. And if there are other divisions, I would say, and that's the thing, and I'm happy to come sit down and talk to Fleet. I mean, the thing is, I don't know. I couldn't tell you how many cars Nick has in parks or trucks. I mean, and so in our minds, you've got it in your contract, like how you've got a separated base between farm, heavy, and so I'm curious about that, and I do want to have a conversation, Councilwoman Logan and Councilman Ford, but in some point, I want to give the police department an opportunity to respond, but one of the, I'll call it a rumor at this, or allegations from some of the rank and file is that we'll order new cars, and instead of those cars going to patrolmen, they end up in the hands of command staff. And that may or may not be true. And like anything, there's usually a reason. We just have to see if it's a good reason. But I want them to have the opportunity to respond to that because it's something that I've heard from people. I missed Monday with my first sick child, and then picked up my second one today. So it's been a killer week at the Carlisle household. But you did lose four trucks this year, correct? So was that in their CIP? What's the plan there? Yeah.
So we'll talk about their CIP here shortly.
Coming in. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Fleet Fund? Oh, I'm sorry. I know. Let's go to
CIP.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's go to your MWB so you get an opportunity to talk about it. Yeah.
Well, the
Same.
MWB
reflects the same.
Yeah, it reflects the same.
Perfect.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
all inclusive.
All right. Also, let the record show that Councilwoman Easter Thomas is present.
All right.
All right. Let's do General Service Fiscal Year CIP.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. Let's go.
All right. Director or Chief Adams.
There we go. So this year, General Services will have 5 CIP projects, proposed projects. We will continue on with the Coke facility. We have our major mod cover line, and then of course City Hall improvements. And then, of course, we will manage the building of the Whitehaven STEM lab. So, and then, of course, we have our capital acquisition, which is similar to the City Hall major mod and the City Hall improvements, and then major mod. They are annual cover line projects. So for our Coke facility, the $2 million that we're requesting is to continue on with the building or the finalization of the fleet facility. We're going to finalize the last part of the project on the south end of that particular facility, just kind of adding more security on the final piece of that, and then adding more IT infrastructure within that particular location. And so right now the construction is underway. We're just going to add additional IT, and we will kind of start wrapping up that particular project. We need to start design and discussions of outstanding operations to kind of talk about maybe bringing them in, because we do have expansion opportunities within that location, but that is going to be for a future administration. So I think it's premature for this administration, since we are concluding to do that. This is for a new administration to kind of pick up. Now, for the major mod, we have a schedule, and our schedule, let's go to the schedule. 4, yep. So here's our schedule. What we have done, we kind of balanced with, because the divisions of parks, fire, police, and I think another division, they have their cover line. So we're kind of measuring carefully with those divisions to kind of balance what we have. Not that they have a lot in their cover lines, but we're not getting a lot either. We have to balance and kind of extend our funding to identify what we call priority ones. Priority ones are what we consider life safety issues. So we've scheduled out our particular projects. We have to replace the HVAC unit over at the animal shelter. We, as of yesterday, had to put temporary units over at the animal shelter, similar to what we did here in City Hall. We just replaced the chillers here at City Hall, or at least one chiller. We have to replace the generators at fire stations 10 and 38. We have to deal with the public safety building, elevator modernization. Then, of course, there's a door replacement over at the Cordova Library.
I'm not sure the Panda's going to be needing that boiler anytime soon.
Yeah, you're right. So we can deal with that and replace that and kind of alternate, but there is always a need at the zoo. Then there's so for the first time in a long time, we've been able to schedule some needs in our public works buildings. Our public works buildings have not been on our major mod list in a very long time, so we've been able to schedule some replacements there. Those have been not only life safety, but they've been occupational safety as well, so we've had to deal with those. We have some over at Parks, a roof replacement at Marion Hill. Then, of course, Roof Tate, we have a roof replacement there. And then, of course, we're replacing the generator over at Hickory Hill. And then we have, again, like we mentioned, several projects at the zoo. And then, of course, we have a replacement over at Bass Pro. As you all know, Bass Pro remains as a city asset. Although it's under lease to Bass Pro, the building is still a city asset. Under the terms of the lease, we still must replace any capital related or deal with any capital related expenditures. And so there's a cooling tower that needs to be replaced. That's a hotel. That brand, not only is it Bass Pro's brand, it's the city's brand. And so it's time to replace that. We're going to retain a bit of that money because we've eaten a lot of the emergency, as you can tell, the emergency contingency funds. Those emergency contingency funds will help me deal with, or help this division deal with the remaining exterior work around City Hall. We're going to continue to huddle internally, and we're going to talk to you and provide you a glimpse of what that price tag will be, as well as far as the structural and garage work that we have to continue to do as well regarding the exterior work at City Hall, or like I like to call it, the People's Building. Mm-hmm. That totals $10 million. Yeah. So, and we're going to work with, as a continued investment, and I think as a part of maybe an agreement with MSCS, we are going to invest $500,000 and collaborate with Whitehaven High School to invest $500,000 in building a STEM lab there.
This will be a full partnership. I think Patrice and I were totaling it up the other day between she and I, and then the community impact. We're full supporters.
Okay. So it is our goal to work with them to have that done over the next fiscal year. So
does this get them across the finish line? Because Patrice, when did we started this 3 fiscal years ago with the community grant program, and then last year we did the community impact funding, and then this last tranche. So is this the?
No, it is not,
okay,
because of inflation, okay, and supply chain. So we have to get back with.
Yeah, can he get us a final number? I'm not saying that, but I'd like to put this thing to bed.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Last but not least, we're requesting to allocate $10 million in, let's go to the next slide, and here's our proposed schedule of purchases. For capital acquisition will only be dedicated to police and fire. This is what we propose to spend. We work with the divisions to prioritize. This is not, sir, this is not proposed, this is not, did we not?
Yeah, so what we've got two different slides, Antonio, if you want to pop up here real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now we know what we need.
All right. So
No, that's
but let's do this. This is becoming a bigger conversation. So this is what I'm gonna propose. We've got time. Instead of digging into this today, let's get with Chief Davis, Chief Crow, General Services Chief Ford, and the council and talk about this.
So consider this, especially when we are talking about FY24 CIP and you start talking about MPD. In their CIP, consider now MPD did receive $1.5 million to get their take-home cars. So that slide that you all received is in that printout is incorrect.
Yeah, it's not flowing through, right?
Yeah, this reflects our budget correctly.
So just to clarify for council members, so just the quick math is what you see 40 times 55 equals 2.2. If you did 70 times 55,000, you'd be at 3.89 million. So just to make sure. So we need that printout.
Right. We'll get you that.
But now I've got this one.
Yeah. That what you have is aspirational. All right. But well, I understand, but here's the other thing that I like for consideration as well. Just again, this again, one of the reasons that we are at 10 million, we are fire and police. Just consider that, and I'll send you an update. You all an update of the funding that we received for the right-of-way vehicles to parks, general services, and engineering. We're still long lead time. Those divisions have not received all their vehicles, so we're still waiting for those vehicles to come in. Once those vehicles come in, then we can start allocating the CIP dollars to those divisions. But right now, public safety are getting those, and then of course we do have separate funding with regard to solid waste. This wraps up the final slide for General Services CIP budget request.
Back Councilman Canale and then Councilman Ford.
Thank you, Chairman. The unit price, is that totally outfitted?
That is
Lights and sirens?
That is outfitted minus radios. Correct? Yes, outfitted minus radios.
I think the radios are 2,000 of cars, and it's like 57 all in for the new SUVs.
Okay, thank you.
57 change. Councilman Ford, sir.
Going back to Bass Pro, you said brand with the hotel. What do you mean by
brand? Brand meaning it's Bass Pro. Well, so here's the deal. If Bass Pro looks bad, we look bad as well. The leaks look bad, we look bad as a city. And I don't want us to look bad. I take pride in every building that we own. And I just don't want us to look bad. When people walk into any building that looks ugly, I want us to try to get it up to speed. I don't like the fact that we have to dig up all this dirt around here. I need us to try to get this back together, but it takes money. And because one of the things that we have, just like now, I'll use the example. Yes, sir.
I cut y'all, but
yes, sir.
I just wanted to know, Brand, because we were talking about the hotel.
Oh, yes, sir.
In there. Then you start talking about
Brand. Yes, sir.
It kind of messed me up with, hey, and you said we the same.
Yes, sir.
So I'm understanding where you're coming from. We
Yes, sir.
just want to fix everything because what's going on, and that is our bill.
Yes, sir.
And we have a
Good
lease
to
that
go.
requires us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lease that requires us to do it.
I just wanted to make sure it just wasn't about the hotel.
Yes, sir. No, it's not about just the hotel. Yes, sir.
There you go. Okay.
All right, you made it.
I did.
Council members, any other questions? All right, we're gonna take a 10-minute break. I gotta run down and, yeah, I need to, so we're recessed for 10 minutes. Meet back at 5 o'clock, or 9 minutes now, 5 o'clock. So they've asked to hold their presentation for a week, and I'm very sorry for that. I know you guys all came down here, and I appreciate you doing that. We'll get a time published. I got HCD right after this. I can't disclose anything till they're ready, but so anyway, we're gonna get that put back on the schedule. We'll get the schedule published out in public, and we're gonna move on to HCD. Yes. All right. Hold on. We're gonna recess for 5 minutes so you guys can get settled. Yeah. I'm going to come out of recess at 5:19. For those of you that were not in the room, Matt has some additional information, and we are going to see them sometime in the future in about a week. So we are going to move on to Director Cash and Housing and Community Development. I guess, Director Cash, you want to go and start? We'll start with general fund operating. Is that good with you?
That sounds good. Thank you so much, Chair.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you turning it over to me? All right, so Ashley Cash, Director of Housing and Community Development, 170 North Main. I want to present our FY24 operating budget. I do want to remind, this is our city operating budget. This is essentially personnel cost and some city fund, city operations that we don't fund with our federal dollars. We will actually be coming to y'all May 16th, I think next Tuesday, to present our federal budget. So a lot of the services are in our federal budget in case y'all see and wonder what's going on. Deputy, do you mind driving for me? Thank you. So the org chart here is our service center. We've got director's office executive kind of at the top, and then administration, that's where we have our operations, our compliance, finance, planning, and then on the other side, we've got our service centers around housing, where we do our affordable housing activity, down payment assistance, economic development, different activities in the community related to community development, lead and weatherization you see there. And then on the community development side, that's where we have a lot of our community engagement and also homeless and special needs departments.
Why do you have community engagement there twice under two different things?
So the other is community development. That's really like our economic development services. We've done some programs with Girls Inc., Vietwa, and then what you see as neighborhood engagement is what is truly neighborhood engagement, where we have our engagement. I see what you're saying, though, the Community Development Service Center.
It's here
and
twice.
The economic development
Maybe we
section.
change name.
Yeah, we can do that. That should say, that's our NEDO department. Development Services, actually, now that I think about it, is what we renamed it, I think 2 years ago. So yes, sir, we'll get that changed. All right, so our strategic priorities, home ownership continues to be a priority of the administration, the development of healthy and affordable housing, and then coordination and support of community and economic development projects. We are partnering in the home ownership side to build new houses in South Memphis and the North Memphis area. We've got a lot of funding and support around home repair, and then on coordination of community and economic development projects. We're working with our Parks Department, Libraries Department to really help and support some of those facilities. So those are good partnerships there. I'm sorry, thank you. You can go to the next slide after that one. And so here are our expenditures for FY24. So the budget request is, sorry, I was looking at a different one. 2.4 million is the total request for personnel services, personnel expenses and recovery. And then materials and supplies, we've got a little over 500,000, or I guess closer to 600,000 there. And then in grants and subsidies, $1.6 million in the request for FY24. That total is $4.6 million. And if you compare that to FY23, it's a decrease of $143,000. That's where you'll see, as we kind of move forward, our grant is covering a little bit more of our personnel expenses. So that is the purpose for that decrease.
And that grant is from?
Our grant from HUD, so our entitlement grants. So it will be Community Development Block Grant, Emergency Solutions Grant, our HOPWA grant. We just got, I think, four major entitlements that are covered there. And then on our program comparative spending, yes, ma'am.
Yes, Councilwoman Robinson, please.
Thank you. My question was, since you got a little more money from HUD, can we apply that somewhere else?
So the funds that are kind of coming to that 143, that's generally CDBG admin funds. Therefore, administration purposes really around that personnel and operating costs. Okay. We would not be able to deliver a different project with that set of funds because it is set aside specifically for administration, for the personnel cost parts of those things.
Okay. And so we don't need an extra person. We don't, I'm trying to figure out, this is your wish list.
Right.
So is there something that you need? This is the time to say it.
Yes, I understand. So we feel like between the operating budget, our CIP, and then what y'all will see next week, which is separate, but our federal budget, we can accommodate the needs that we have seen in the community. And so that's what we are requesting today.
Well, congratulations.
All right. If you can go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, yeah.
Before you go on,
Councilwoman Logan.
when you mention personnel, are you all able to get a person to work on grant?
Yes, so
Just
we have,
dedicated to grants?
we've got a plan in our planning and policy department. We have grant writers, we have a grant coordinator, we have a grant writer, and then we also, for some more specialized grants, we do contract with external grant writers if they're specialized for. We've had some environmental grants that we went out for, and some other type of grant that I'm forgetting. But when it's more specialized than we do accommodate those services. We've got, so that department is made up of, I think, about 6 people.
Good. Go on.
All right. I think next slide. I may have to just go with yours. Oh, here we go. All right, so here, this is once again just broken down by those service centers. $2 million in the administration, which once again I mentioned is compliance, accounting, finance, those areas, an executive for housing and community development. In our housing service center, the request is $936,000. Community initiatives, $255,000, and then for economic development, $255,000, and then community initiatives, $1.3 million. That total request. This is just going into detail specifically around the service centers, $4.6 million total, which is a difference of about 3% from the FY23 budget.
And that 30% decrease in economic development input there has got to do primarily with we're getting grants from other places filling that up. Is that right?
Yeah, that is. So let's see. In 23, we were funded at $353,000. We did have some carryover funds. I would have to say, I think we're going to see that in the in our docking fees. So we had some. HCD was previously getting about $100,000 in docking fees. We met that obligation, so we don't get those anymore. And that's where you'll see that decrease of about $100,000.
What is a docking fee?
So it's for, right, thank you. It's for the boats that are docking into the harbor over there. So there are fees that each boat cruise line has to pay as they come in. And HCD was previously the receiver of those funds. We're no longer receiving those funds.
Okay, because it's community development, not obviously because it's not housing. So
Well, I don't understand. What is the question?
Why would we be putting docking fees in?
Did you guys issue the bonds?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why.
Thank you.
So when RDC did that deal, the RDC is literally, now the MRP is literally just like an asset management, property management firm. So they are not a public building authority, so they don't have the ability to issue bonds like everybody else. Anyway, so all the debt to build came out of HCD, so therefore they needed to recover the funds for the debt service. Yeah.
Thank you, Councilman. And those are no longer being passed through HCD. Is that?
Thank you.
All right, let's give it a shot. Revenues. Okay, so the bridge. Once again, we've got our revenues. What we talked about a little bit here. The charge for service, $100,000 for the previously that $100,000 that we just saw in the docking fees. The FY24 request, we don't have anything there. Other revenues, we're anticipating some revenues for the Taste of Memphis. That's our annual event. We get a lot of sponsorships from those. Fannie Mae proceeds are, we're expecting about $800. That's an old product that the city used to do. We don't do that product anymore. We don't have that product anymore, but we are still receiving proceeds from the payoffs of those loans. And then the garage payment, Lee's Landing Garage at $100,000. So our anticipated revenue for FY24 is $120,875,000. And then next slide. Talked a little bit about this. Our obligation has been filled relative to the docking fees, the miscellaneous income. Once again, this is just going into detail as to how we got that $20,175 that I just referenced.
So,
next slide,
wait,
yes,
do we
sir.
retire the debt? Is that the deal? Or
So it goes. I'm not 100%
Yeah.
sure.
it's fine. We
Yeah,
don't.
yeah,
I'm,
if
I'm
you,
curious just because I can't remember because we didn't build it until like 2011 or 12. Yeah.
The docking fees.
Can you send me an email or just catch me up on that? I just can't remember. Now I am curious. Okay, sorry.
That's okay. So our complement is at 66 staff members. Our authorized complement is at 66 staff. You can see it broken apart or broken across those different service centers that I mentioned already. We currently have 16 vacancies. Of the 16, 3 are posted, 2 have been filled, and then there are a few others where we are, I know there are 4 in particular that we are making modifications to the description to get the right candidate for the position. We have a couple of positions that are very general. They're similar, but they're in different departments, and the descriptions are general, and so we're working with HR to specify those, and then there are 2 that we are trying to transition from an existing position into a different type of position. One is an administrator level position, and the other is an inspector position that we're trying to bring on. So that's what's going on with our positions and our vacancies. Next slide is materials and supplies. Give me a second, I was working with different versions. So our, the number at the top, 256, is our miscellaneous and professional services, and we actually have a slide on the next page that goes into detail there. Computer equipment, 60,000, supplies outside, miscellaneous charges, document reproduction. We do print different flyers, documents, that sort of thing. We've got some money set aside in reserves and lawsuits. Some funds for insurance, phones, and then other miscellaneous and professional services, which I had a note about the M&S account, the other different M&S accounts. All of these were budgets where cumulatively it is $74,000, but no charge rises over $15,000. So it just all falls into that bucket. If you go to the next slide, please, thank you. So this is that 256,000 miscellaneous professional services. These are things that our federal grants cannot cover. We have 2 consultants on board who help us with technical assistance. One around general HUD technical assistance, one around the home issue or home requirements, home regulations. Those are $84,000 and $52,000. TA providers, and they have been recommended by HUD to assist us with different, whether we come up with different issues or just in the ongoing delivery of our grants. They've been very helpful in helping us with different processes. We have a lot of home repair and different affordable housing projects that are ongoing across the city. We contract with All World for the inspection of those to make sure that the repairs are done in a way that's satisfactory to us and that the new construction is meeting not only code, but then also the elements that we expect them to meet. And that budget is there, $50,000. Neighborly, we've actually gotten a lot over time, a lot of comments around our application system. We've used a few different application portals in the past, some clunkier than others, the worst of which was an Excel spreadsheet, which is not great for an application. And so Neighborly is actually an application portal. They're used across the country. That amount is $50,000, but it's really clean. There's a lot of storage, backup reporting options and opportunities, but Primarily, it's really user-friendly for people to see where they are in their application and know what they're applying for our various grants. And then the NACHA audit is a requirement of the city, and the cost is $20,000. All right, next slide. We don't have any leases. MWBE is what you see presented here. And so we've at the end of, let's see, FY22, we spent 41.31%. Here we are in FY23, and our spend is our total MWBE spend, certified is 8.5 for WBE, 17.7 for MWBE, and then you can see the numbers for non-certified, where we are working with a vendor who would meet that category, but they just have not been certified with the city yet. And we do consistently encourage our vendors who qualify to go through that process with OBDC and become certified with the city. All right, I think last slide, is that the last slide? Okay, thank y'all. Is there any comments or questions?
Councilman Ford.
Judge, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I know last year on home improvement, we gave that money.
Yes, sir.
Have y'all ran out of that money yet?
We haven't run out of it yet. I think we have, we've probably encumbered over 4 million of it. I think we've got maybe 800,000 left that's available for the home repair program.
Can you tell me about how many homes that you've done?
I think we've got in the queue for that. So we've done. I'm just thinking back to the last report I saw. So there were something like 26 homes that had been completed from that work. There were actually 130 in the pipeline of that, and we continue to get those calls. What I can do, Councilman, is get an updated list of where we are against the referrals that we have and the amount of funds that we've expended, the number that's actually been served. We can get you that updated information.
I know the administration gonna get on it right now, but I'd like to put that much back in there again to help home improvements.
You got that now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Because you're getting those reports from sub-grantees.
Right,
correct?
that's right.
Yeah.
We're getting it from
Yeah.
sub-grantees.
Well, we can try to keep it consistent to help.
And we do about 25,000 is the max per home. Some may need a little bit less than that. Some, unfortunately, need more than that, and we try to partner if there's another agency that can do, maybe we can do lead, they can do something else.
I got a call the other day from a lady that had some home improvements, and she just wanted y'all to know, thank y'all.
Oh, good.
What she needed, they did much more.
Oh,
Because
good.
they saw she needed all of those different things, and she's just as happy as she want to be.
That's what's so hard about that program is I think talking to Chief McGowan when he was here is it used to be about a $5,000. The idea was about $5,000 a home, and they get in and realize
what they need.
a little more here, a little more there. So because once we're in, we have an obligation to.
That's right.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Colleagues, any more questions on the operating budget? All right, let's move on to CIP. And before you hop into this, can we, I know these are operating, can we get you back at some point to talk about what's that?
The trust fund?
Well, no, the trust fund, I already know what I'd like to do. But I mean, we've talked a little bit about that program, which has been great. At least I think what Accelerate did was it allowed us the opportunity to see, like, if we had real money, how would we do it? And kind of like with everything, like there's never going to be enough money in there. The real question that I think you guys have to decide from an administrative standpoint is do you keep taking it on a project by project basis based on the capital stack, the rooms, the ability to perform and all that stuff? Or do you cap it and say, look, our program is going to be only up to $500,000 or or is it going to be pro rata per unit, right? So trying to figure out what does $20 million get you, right? Does it get you 300 units, or do you try and go and say, we want to be a part of 6,000 units, but that's why we're going to cap it. Right. So we at least got one good run with a significant amount of money. What I'd like to do, though, is really have you come back and go back over. It's been 2 years since we really talked about, and it was really when Paul was still at HCD, we really talked about the community development block grant funding, what you guys are up to, how much you're receiving, how you partner with the city in other areas, because I think there are projects where we've used CIP. I mean,
right.
I think the hard part for the council, I'm sorry, I'm going to digress here for a second. I think the hard part for the council is these hearings stay very focused on operating and CIP, right? Like those are the things in which we are required to do under state law. And at times what council members are trying to ask, and sometimes we probably don't say eloquently enough, is what's the capital stack for X project, right?
Yeah.
Especially for your division. Like you got all sorts of funds coming in. Yeah. So trying to understand, it's kind of like Robert. People are like, oh, he's sitting on $300 million. What are you doing with it and how? So I think having you come back at some point when you feel like you've got time and you're ready to talk about annual dollars in, where they're going, how you're funding them. I know we've have a Section 8 conversation coming up, but talking a little bit more about that. I'd love to know what's going on with Pepper Tree. If we need to do that with Attorney Klein, that's fine too. But I'd love to have a more robust discussion about your division that is outside of just your operating and CIP, because we never have the time. And at the end of the day, it's a big piece of, at least, I know the administration, but certainly this council spends just talking about how do we make a dent in this thing.
Right.
So I'd like to have a larger conversation. It's a little bit more outside of just these two buckets. Councilwoman Logan, did you want to say something?
Thank you, Chair. Along those lines, how do you approach what to do, with the funding that you have each year? What is the plan, or how do you look at the city and the needs that are coming, or big projects that are needed in different, parts of the city? When you come back.
Yeah, we'd love to have that discussion with you all.
We would too. And honestly, mainly because it is complex and complicated, and we get the question, and at the end of the day, like, the short answer is it's money. But it's like, who's paying for it and where and how? All right, let's move on to CIP.
All right, CIP, and y'all will get a little bit of preview because we go into some of that detail next week with our federal budget, but I would love to come and have that discussion. So our CIP request for this upcoming fiscal year, we have 4 projects here. 3 are already underway, and 1 is new. South City MHA Foot Homes, the last $2 million of that, I think we are, so that was from FY23, I apologize, FY23, and then Edgeview, $500,000. Both of those are really good projects. The $2 million is our last commitment for the South City, and then Edgeview will be, yes, I know, Councilman, I remember last time we talked about it, the duration of it. The duration. Coming to a close soon. But the other Edgeview, speaking of close, that project is senior housing, and I think 99 units, and the closing is anticipated there's a closing date. I think it might be June 16th or 26th or something like that. It's really soon. And they'll start construction. They're obligated to start construction, I believe, 60 days after that. So we're excited to see that project take off. Looking at 24, we have a request for 24 and 25 for the Pinch District, and we'll get into detail on these projects. And then Melrose, there's a request to support that project at $1.8 million for FY24. Total of $4.8 million CIP. If you can go to the next slide, please. So this is historic Melrose. We're excited. If you go around the building, or if you go down Dallas Street now, it looks completely different as to what it was. There's a new roof. We've started to do some interior work. Ultimately, there'll be a build out on the back. And so we're just really excited that this project is coming to life. If you can go to the next slide, please. It will be.
Yeah, do you have a tentative opening date?
Say that again.
Tentative opening date?
December. No, I don't have the actual date.
Yeah.
End of the year, November, December. We'll have an opening for the phase 1, which is the existing interior of that building. And then what is it? We can probably get y'all a closer date in a couple of months as we get end of this calendar year. That's correct. That is a genealogy library on the first floor. We're working with the developer now on some affordable housing for the second and third floors. But right now we're in the that first phase. So if you think about phase 1, 2, and 3, 1 is the existing building, 2 is that addition on the back, 3 is the affordable housing that is supporting the community. So the total project cost is about $16 million. There's a lot of, so because it's a historic building, there's just a lot of renovation work and preservation that has to be done, certain types of equipment, windows that have to be procured, and that drives the cost a little bit. We're requesting the 1.8 in CIP this year. Federal grants, we're committing $4 million over 2 fiscal years for that. And then local, there was the 10 million Accelerate, which really, actually the 500,000 CIP got the project off the ground, and then the 10 million was the big infusion to make it happen. Next project is the Pinch District. So this is exciting but less visible project. You can see it through the construction as you're driving around the Pinch District. But what this is essentially to add additional electric and sewer capacity in the Pinch area to support future development. The immediate development that we are supporting there is the Domino's Village, St. Jude Domino's Village, which should be opening soon. We're taking a lot of the underground, the electrical conversion from overhead to underground, which is very expensive. And this project is grant funded in part by the state. So there's a $36 million grant. The city is required to match the first 12 million of that, and then the remainder is granted out to us. So it's a really great opportunity for some infrastructure investments into our city. These, this image just shows kind of where you are around, 2nd, 3rd, Shadiac, Willis, those streets up there. If you go to the next slide is the, more pictures. Here's some images of the construction work. If you go to the next slide, thank you, goodness. More pictures. So the money, we've got, so far we've expended a little over $1 million. This is also a partnership with St. Jude. They've been contributing. Total estimated project cost from the city will be $12 million. Like I said, that remainder will be grant funded by the state. And the commitment so far, so we did about $1.4 million in TDZ and ARPA funds, $5 million in GEO bonds, and then an additional, this is broken out by different years and different projects, additional $6.6 million in TDZ ARPA funds. And so we're requesting $500,000, $250,000 this year and next fiscal year. This is a huge project, but that $250,000, we've got some smaller activity with some of our project managers and some project costs, some smaller invoices with MLGW to get some of those things that are not in the $1 million range done. And so, we're just excited to continue to be able to contribute to the completion of this project. I believe that is my last slide. And happy for any questions.
Thanks, federal government. That was a big backfill. I don't have any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Director Cash? Yeah, big help. Big help there, ARPA. All right. Thank you, Director Cash.
All right. Thank you all.
Appreciate you. And then we'll find a time to get you on the schedule that works for you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you, everybody from HCD. Appreciate you all. All right, colleagues, we're wrapped for the schedule today. I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items really quickly. For those of you that weren't in the room, we're going to find a time in a week or so with MATA to get them on the schedule. I think it's going to be a robust discussion about a couple primary things, but they've got a couple things they need to flush out on their end just to make it a smoother conversation. Since we're sitting here, and we've got a little bit extra time, I wanted to walk through a couple of just high-level things. One, also, sorry, on housekeeping. Your schedule has changed. If you'll note, at least for tomorrow, library, we're going to go HR, healthcare, and OPEB, which will be a good precursor for Tuesday's council meeting, where we're going to get into the ordinance itself to take us to allow, I'm going to say, if I screw this up, correct me, Shondell, but to allow for the option to go back to the 1978 plan. Did I say that right? Is that the ordinance? Yeah. So
we call it legacy.
Legacy plan.
Make it easy.
Yeah, it's classier that way, We've got parks, which JB's super excited about, and then library, and then Chief Ford has she's going to the GFAO concert later, so we've tried to. What is it? Concert? Yeah, definitely a conference. conference. Nothing cooler than a bunch of accountants getting together, jamming out. Yeah. So everything, her division, and as much as we could pack in, is going to be on Monday, and then we kind of balance back out. We will fill in city grants and agencies that members have requested on this, so you can see who's coming and who's not, and then we'll backfill some dates. What I wanted to talk about really quickly and fast, so if I screw this up, the idea is just to make sure that we've got kind of at a high level some of the things that people have touched on, and I'm really just going to start with solid waste. So solid waste, I know a big thing was service level and funding service levels for solid waste. So we're waiting on those to come back. Engineering, we had a lot of discussion around, again, funding, but for CIP specific to traffic lights, speed bumps, and then traffic safety. So we got to get those numbers back. And if I miss something, interrupt me. Like if there was something that I don't say that is on there, just shout it out. City council, it's more staff structure. We got to have a more robust conversation about that, because there's a million different directions you can take that, and each one of them has significant implications. 311 call center seemed to kind of, I think most questions got answered, but I think what everyone wanted to see was that Oracle report, really the percentage of closure rate, I think was the idea of once it's called in and given to a specific division head, like how are we doing on closing those out? Did I miss anything on 311? I know they're in the middle of a transfer to the GIS mapping, but
yes.
Yeah.
We will have the documentation submitted by tomorrow. We should have it ready for tomorrow.
Perfect. Memphis Animal Services was also a service level. We talked a little bit about what it would look like and to like subsidized boarding. But the other thing that we touched on is what it would cost if there was a shelter expansion or kind of what we'll call a substation, so that people, people don't have to go from Southwest Memphis to Northeast Memphis to pick up their animals, which there clearly is an issue. I missed youth services, Chairman Jones, and you had the helm. Was there anything in particular that needed to be, any questions or things that needed to come back?
Yeah, but it'll take me a minute to think of it. And I think I see Councilwoman.
Yeah, hop in. Yeah.
I know
this is an open discussion.
We had you asked them to come back with a more robust program based on the fact that they were only servicing a few number of children, and we have so many more to serve, and it didn't show a lot of things for them to actually do. So you asked them to come back with a little bit more detail, put some more money into it, and thought and collaboration with other services.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So they still have to come back to us.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And again, I miss police and fire for the most fun afternoon of sick kids and changing my wife's tire and my work clothes was awesome. Anything that police and fire, you guys asked for them to come back on? No.
Well, I guess there is some expectation of if we're talking about a crime lab or something like that.
That's right. So So okay.
And the abatement program.
An abatement
not abatement program. I'm sorry. The youth.
What do we call them? The service centers or the? You're talking about the
right. Crime.
What do we? What's the one up in your district? What do we call that building? Crime abatement program. All right.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Okay, sorry. Okay, crime abatement, and then crime lab.
For fire, there was a discussion about the current fee collection service and the fact that they do not accept debit card payments.
Okay.
And so what I asked for is how much did we bill and how much have we collected?
What the collection rate is?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Bill versus collection. Morgan, I know that you were apparently heavily involved in the police. That sum up we're just going over kind of the housekeeping list of things that we've asked for.
Working on it. Talked to the TBI today. Sent a long email to police today for more information. because it doesn't look like we have time to discuss on Tuesday. It's just jam packed.
Yeah, but we can have some of this come back and wrap up.
And then it's more complicated than just the crime lab because it would be also potentially third-party contracts under professional services. Also, what aspect and how much of a crime lab to build. It doesn't necessarily have to be the full thing, but we could focus on the specifically egregious crimes such as sexual assault or gunshot. So, but yes, it's a big conversation that I'm working as fast as I can to get the information we need to deliberate and make a decision.
Perfect. All right, Public Works, Rhonda, you're definitely a big part of this one. So is Patrice. So we had grass cutting, we had citywide clean, we had the blight task force. What are we going to call that? What are we calling it? It's like a comprehensive. Yeah, no, but you had the one that you wanted, the comprehensive strategic. Yeah, there you go. Comprehensive strategic plan. And I'm sorry I had all this and I threw it away. Comprehensive strategic plan, the citywide clean number.
And it was finding a way and a structure finding a way and the ability to fund service centers, convenience centers in north, south, east, and west. And the thought was to set up some type of share the pennies kind of thing. But I know that there are some state things that we have to deal with.
Well, the good news is that the esteemed gentleman from District 6 already put in a word in Commissioner Ford Jr.'s ear that there may be some necessary legislation to help us out on getting the county's permission to do this convenience center. So we're very grateful to him for that.
Because they started their budget, we want to get everything that we can from across the street. Okay,
that's right.
So he needs to know before.
So, and then today, guys, we had general services, the fleet report, which we basically were just asking for just how many new vehicles we've ordered over the last 2 years, how many we've received, and then how many are over that 175,000 mile marker. I would tell all of you to grab that CIP and go over it, pages 5 and maybe 7. But it gives you a really good idea of where a lot of money's on for like a lot of ongoing operations all across the city are. And so take a good look at that. You may have questions, you may not, but I would suggest everybody take a look at that.
Okay.
Matt, yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just want to take you back to the CIP budget for engineering.
Yes, ma'am.
Did we talk about the sidewalk on Tullahoma?
Thank you.
Did we miss that?
Yes, ma'am.
We've been doing that for this 8th year now. I've been only waiting.
Yeah, and also for Public Works, also making sure. And I know Robert committed to it on the record, but just making sure that he gets South Parkway East. And I know Shirley and her team are working on a source of funds.
And one other thing you asked today about the STEM building at Whitehaven, they have raised $7 million. That includes the $500,000 that we committed from the city. And the total cost because of inflation has gone up to $8.3 million now. And the other progress that they've made, they have named it the largest donor. The building is going to be named after the largest donor, and his name is Herbert, and it's going to be called the Herbert STEM Center.
Fantastic.
Okay.
And then I'll add one more to engineering, which was also the Holmes Road widening.
Yes.
Yeah, the road widening.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm running out of space.
She ran out of space.
Okay, perfect. All right. And then HCD, Councilman Ford wants to look at doing an annual home repair program of the level that we're doing. And then we didn't touch on it, but Affordable Housing Trust Fund, something we've talked about that's going to come up by wrap up for sure. And then Councilwoman Logan, you asked something, and Director Cash didn't answer it, but I touched on it, which is we probably do, because Jones asked about it when we awarded money to a works project, and he made the point we in a regular council session, committee session, need to have them walk through how the Accelerate program worked on a case-by-case basis. And we touched on that a little bit, and how they see it going forward, if they, however they're going to do that, how that selection process works, because it's important, especially for people that are sitting there thinking, well, I own this piece of property and I'd love to build, 10 units or whatever, or 90 units. But again, that program's out there, and they've flushed out some of the details, but probably best to go over it, I think. Okay. All right, colleagues, I'm sorry. Yeah, so did you want to talk to, I meant to ask you, did you want to talk to the Art Commission about the one-time program they had, or just the general maintenance going forward? Okay, yes, we got it. Then let's get them on the city grants. Well, if they are going to do it, that they're, when the time to take it down, it comes down. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay. All right. Last thing, and then we'll head out of here, is again, we're going to get all the city grants and agencies and things that have been requested to come before the body out to everyone. And then please look at that list, or have your assistants look at that list, so that we don't miss anybody that you wanted to hear from. But if you don't, this is my ask. If any council member is entitled to do that, and I'll respect your wishes, my gentle request is, if you really don't have any intention of increasing or decreasing their funding for any particular reason, and they're pretty much an annual deal for the sake of brevity, just to no need to have them come. But if it's something that you feel is necessary for the council to hear because you want to get it on the record, I'll respect that request, certainly, and we'll put it on. All right. Any other council members, anything? All right, we'll see everyone tomorrow at 3:30 to talk a little HR, Patrice. Oh, yeah, they've got their 53